Hey guys, it's Caleb with Stain and Seal Experts, and I've seen some posts going around about 50% gross profit margins. Some of you people are asking, do people actually get a 50% gross margin or better? And some of you are really stressing over it. And so I just wanted to give some context. So a 50% gross profit margin is where a lot of people, Tom Reber is a great example of a business coach. A lot of business coaches say in a home services business that you are scaling, that you are growing, you need to hit a 50% gross profit margin or better in order to really scale and grow your business. And I would agree with that. However, there's a lot of guys out there who are not trying to scale or grow their business. And so a 50% gross profit margin in that sense might be too much, or it might be unobtainable. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a great example. So I grew up in the fencing business, and I was told and taught a 30% margin. That's where we need to be. That's fair, and that's what we do. And it worked. We sold over $1 million or up to $1 million a year worth of fencing. But we couldn't scale our business. We couldn't afford new trucks. We couldn't afford the latest and greatest web development stuff. There were a lot of things we couldn't afford, and we couldn't pay our employees, who was me, enough money to really satisfy where I wanted to be, and therefore I started a staining company. So I would say that in a business that you're trying to scale, that you're trying to add employees and team members, and you want to make upgrades in your branding and your equipment and your facility, you want to pay insurance, you want to do retirement, you want to do vision, you want to do health, you want to do paid time off, you want to attract and bring in high level players into your business, then you're going to have to look at earning a 50% margin, 60%, and some companies even run a 99% margin. Think about, I know a lot of you guys worry about, the ethical standpoint of charging too much money or not enough money. And I agree, you don't want to overcharge people. You do want to charge a fair price. But think about Netflix. When you pay Netflix $20 a month, what does it cost them to onboard you? If you sign up for Netflix and pay for it, it costs them basically zero. So they're running a 99, probably 98, 99% gross profit margin. So they're extremely profitable. And what happens with Netflix, they grew extremely fast, extremely big, and now they're this huge company because they've got such a great gross profit margin. So if you're a smaller contractor, if you're working out of your truck, if it's you don't have branding, you've got a very simple company name, you work with yourself, maybe one team member, you're happy doing that. Trying to get a 50% gross profit margin is going to be tougher because you don't roll up to the job site really put together like some of the bigger companies do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to get a 50% gross profit margin. I see a lot of guys that are just working by themselves, and they say, I can't get 50%, I'm failing, I'm dying. I don't think that's the case. I think you know your numbers better than anyone else. If you do a really good job and you're one guy in a truck and you're making a 30% gross profit margin, and you did $300,000, $400,000 worth of work, and you were able to keep 80 or 100 grand, and you live in a small town USA, that's probably a great opportunity. Now, if you've got 16 employees and you're making a 30% margin, and you're going through a growth phase, 30% is not going to do it for you. So I think I just want to paint the picture of it. It really depends on where you are and where you're going in your business. If you're not hitting 50%, don't stress unless you're trying to really scale and grow your business. Then you're going to have to sit back, and you're going to have to make the decision that, hey, we are going to raise our prices, and we're not going to get as much of this kind of work that we're getting now. But what happens when you do make that decision to scale your business, when you get your trucks wrapped, when you get your website, when you get everything really dialed in, you're no longer going after the 30% margin customers. You're going after the 50 or 60 or 70% margin customers. And they're buying more than just a craftsman. Although a craftsman's a great thing and we definitely need them, they're buying a little more security. They're buying warranty. They're buying into the whole brand thing. It's no different than buying name brand food, can of beans, and a non-name brand can of beans. They're probably made in the same factory, but as well as I do, a lot of people are going to buy the name brand stuff. So that's the way it goes. So now I do think that the staining business, if you're in the staining business, you probably do need to charge a bit higher of a margin, just simply because we're weather dependent, we're seasonal, and there's just things that you can't control in the staining business. You're going to have to do touch-ups from time to time. You're going to have to take days off because of... All right, we're just going to finish it right there because I think we've had technical difficulties. There you go. Hey, Jeff, can you still hear me? We good? Back to class. All right, cool. It looks like I'm back online. Perfect. There's going to be a place when you're an owner operator, and let's just say you're making 120 grand a year that you're bringing home to your household, and you're making that money, and you just say, hey, I want to bring on another crew, or I want to bring on 2 more crews, or I want to bring on 5 crews, and I'm going to have to hire, an administrative person and an operations person to do that. Well, what's going to happen is your personal income's fixing to take a hit unless you're special and unless you've brought in some kind of investor or whatever to grow. Growth sucks cash, and so all that extra money you were making, you're going to have to start putting it into the growth. You now have to pay people. You have payroll taxes. You have different, you're going to have to buy vehicles. You're going to have to professionalize your website because I have 5 people and now I've got to get more work. You're going to have to charge a higher margin because you need more margin on these jobs. Because your cost of goods sold went up because you went from 1 man on a job to 2 men on a job, things like that. Your callback rate may go up because you're not the guy doing the work anymore. And you're going to have training days because you don't want callbacks and you're not going to be on the job. You're going to have to train your people. So there's going to be a part when you try to scale your business where you go from making a ton of cash to revenue goes up. Productivity goes up, but your personal income is going to dip, and you just got to take that, and that's the way it goes. But then these things will balance out, and you will start to catch up to that, and you can start to build your business accordingly. But anyways, wherever you are on that thing, if you're not hitting 50%, but you're one guy in a truck, it's probably not a big deal, because I think we could show you a P&L from a company that has 10 employees, a company that has 0 employees, and a company that has 500 employees. And then just those 3 different types of operations are going to have different efficiencies. They're going to have different buying power. They're going to have different things going on. One might charge a 30% margin. One might charge a 50% margin, and one might charge a 72% margin. And they might all net out the same amount of net profit at the end of the year. So it's really going to come down to how that works. Gross profit's a great number to look at, but the big number to look at is your bottom line, and that's your net profit. So I want you guys to pay really good attention to that, because the net profit, if you increase your net profit, if you think about this, the net profit's so powerful. If you're only getting, let's say, 10% net profit, I would say that you're looking at really the break-even point. And there's a great book, I don't think I've got it here, but it's called Simple Numbers, Big Profits by Ben or David Crabtree. You should check that book out. But Simple Numbers, Big Profits, something like that. It's a good book. But the net profit line is so much more powerful than the gross profit line and the top line. So think about this. If you have $100 in net profit and $50 in gross profit, and let's say 100 in net, let's do the math here. You got $100 in net profit, $500 in gross profit, and $1,000 in your total top line revenue. If you add $10 to the top line, it's really, you go from 1,000 to 1,010. You made a 1% increase in your revenue, or your revenue, right? If you take that same $10 and you add it to your $100 net profit, which becomes 110, now you've increased the net by 10%. So remember, the net number is more powerful. So little increments make a really big difference on the net side. So if you're only working with a 30% net or a gross margin, you can really work some efficiencies in there and net out as much money as the guy who's doing 70 or 80%. So anyways, hope that was helpful. Greg Crabtree, Simple Numbers, Tim Milner, thank you. We've read the same book. Great book, and he does claim that 10% is the new break even. 25 to 30% net margins is a really sweet place to be. So if you can get there, that'd be cool. Anyways, if you got any questions, let me know. I know all of you have been asking about Staining University. We're doing Standing University in early March. We're going to do it a little bit differently than we've normally done it. I'm going to announce it. We're going to be able to affect a lot more people doing it, a lot more lives. It's going to be a huge thing. We got some really big guests that are going to be there. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be virtual. So I'll just go ahead and announce it because I know some of you guys are wanting to make your plans. We're going to do a virtual one. We've done several virtual Standing Universities, and the attendance was higher. And the interaction was higher. And so that's what we're going to do. All the hands-on training, everybody says, hey, we want hands-on training, we want hands-on training. But when we actually do the hands-on training, we have to beg people to come down and try it. So all of the training, the physical stuff, because we're gonna do it virtual, we're gonna be able to show a lot more nuance, take a little more time with that. And then all of the classes, all the inspirational stuff, all of the speakers, all the training, we'll be able to do that as well. And it'll all be recorded. You can watch it over and over and over again, and it's still gonna be for free. So look for that at the beginning of March. And then who knows, if everybody likes that, we'll continue doing that probably on a monthly basis. And then planning a big get together later in the year. So anyways, awesome. Talk to you guys soon. And if you got any questions, drop them in here and I'll answer them. And I'll show you. I'm a really good example, by the way, of a person who was an employee for many years and then started a very small business and then scaled it to, I guess, 5 companies. And we don't have a lot of employees, only about 25 employees, but still I've walked the walk and I've wore many of the different hats and shoes. So I do have some perspective and happy to help anybody who's got any questions.